But you guys can.
We acknowledge it. Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy Wednesday. Rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll note that all members are present with the exception of Mr. Wondolowski, and I will move to excuse his absence.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Motion passes. I will move to approve the minutes from the March 7th, 2022 meeting and the March 14th, 2022 board meeting, if there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment about those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And then on to our directives and memorandum. I will move to acknowledge the Secretary of State's directive and memorandum, Directive 2022-30, League of Women Voters of Ohio et al. Via the Ohio Redistricting Commission, and additional instructions and letter from the Secretary to the General Assembly. Directive 2022-31, a revised form of ballot for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. Directive 2022-32, May 3rd, 2022 primary election instructions. And then a memorandum of 2022-01, the responsibilities of sheriffs and chiefs of police for the 2022 primary election. If there's a second.
Second, and I just wanted to just note that it looks like we're required to act if it's on our agenda under number 4 under Directive 2022-31. It requires that we acknowledge that for the record. The change, it's on our agenda at number 4, but it's just that the directive requires us, which we have on our agenda.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I was just saying. Under
Item 4.
Yeah.
Item 4, right.
We can do that as a separate item.
Yeah, it's already on there, but I was just saying that that's actually a directive that required us to do something, but our folks had it on there, so.
All right, and hearing any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. On to item 3, is how are we going to handle that, Mr. Prodigy? The acknowledgement of the ballot proofs for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election in accordance with the ballot proofing policy approved by the board of the March 12th, 2021 board meeting. I'm going to move to adopt that. That is something you sent out to us yesterday. Is it been walked out? It's walked out here. Is that it?
No, this is on here. What was walked on is that is an alternate voting plan that's on there. This is now standard course of business for us that we have to acknowledge the ballot proofs after or in each election. And I want to say it was last year that this board adopted a ballot proofing policy and so what this is just saying in accordance with that policy, staff has executed the proofing of the ballot and that ballots are accurate.
Is that a requirement by the way of directive that we have to acknowledge? Oh, okay.
It's an
Or
election official manual.
Oh, it's in the
Which are
DOM.
directives.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, we're acknowledging ballot proofs for the May 3rd primary, which don't include state house and state senate districts.
Right, and that staff executed their job duties in accordance with the policy that this board in fact adopted.
Yes.
I'm going to make, I've moved to acknowledge that ballot proof policy and the compliance with for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. And that proofing was done consistent with the proofing policy approved by the board at its March 12th, 2021 board meeting. Okay, if there's a second. Thank you. Any further question or comment? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I will move, as we're required to do, I will move for the acknowledgement of candidates' petitions for the Ohio House, Ohio Senate, and State Central Committee that were certified based on the February 24th, 2022 General Assembly district lines. Since this plan was ruled invalid by the Ohio Supreme Court, the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections decision to certify or reject these candidates' petitions for the May 3rd, 2020 primary election is now null and void. If there's a second.
Second.
All right. Any other question or comment? Secretary of State's asked us to do that, and we've just made that motion, seconded. No further question or comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and on to item 5, I will move to acknowledge the withdrawal of candidates from the May 3rd, 2022 primary election, State Central Committee, Senate District 23, Donna M. Walker Brown for the Republican Party, and County Central Committee, Cleveland 17F, Nathaniel Lowe for the Democrats. If there's a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And just as a side note, Member Sticken just advised me that Congressman Gibbs, who was running for in a primary, is resigned or is withdrawing from that primary. So we'll have another name to acknowledge at our next meeting, but staff will move ahead with, once you get official notification.
Correct. So once we have that official notification, we will implement our withdrawal procedures, which means on a vote by mail packet that goes out, a notice will be in that packet indicating that that candidate has withdrawn, as well as on election day or during early in-person voting, there'll be a posting in the voting booth also stating that. We will have to wait until we get the official filing with our office, and then at our next meeting in April, it will appear. That name will appear on the ballot though, but we will not report any election results for that candidate.
So not that you would know, but maybe Brian would. I mean, how many people we have now that were like, they're on the ballot, but they're not counting? Is that like, yeah, 3, 4, 5? It's, all right, thank you.
Excited.
Why not, right?
Make sure that signage is good at all of these places.
All right, on to the item 6. I will move to acknowledge the death, unfortunately, in office and appointment to elected office. If there's a second,
Second.
the unfortunate passing of Ms. Patterson from the Bedford City School District, and then the appointments of elected office of Danielle Shoykat and Beechwood City Council. Brandon Lipford from the Bedford City School District is appointed. Richard Mack, Berea City School District. Sean Wolanin, Olmsted Falls City Council. Scott Sari, Olmsted Falls City Council. Aaron Bell, Richmond Heights City Council, and John Fosbender, South Euclid City Council. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and I will move to authorize to pay 288 voting location managers $275 a piece for the total of $79,200. 317 voting location deputies at a cost of $275 per person for $87,175 total. 2,868 precinct election officials for $250 a person, $717,000. 288 sanitation officials at $200 a person, $57,600. 150 election substitute officials at $100 a person. That's a total of $15,000 for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Just a question. I mean, the sanitation officials aren't required, correct? Is that just something we continue to do?
Right, yes, they're not required. We continue to do it, but how we've modified it actually in 2022 is that we've adjusted their training so they actually qualify as a precinct election official. They don't get as in-depth training on electronic poll book, but they have sufficient training in which they could operate the DS200, be a greeter, and actually qualify as a bona fide PEO if need be.
Okay, any other question or comment? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I will move to authorize to process payment in the amount not to exceed $46,700 for 91 private voting locations, 5 CMHA locations, and 1 private zone station being used for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and then I'll move for the final authorization for the allocation of voting booths for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. Those allocation quantities are based on social distancing and room size per polling location. Total of 4,554 voting booths will be allocated, 819 DS200 precinct scanners, 288 ADA automark voting units, and 796 electronic poll books, if there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Again, just the social distancing requirements, we're still doing that, or
We
are
are,
we tightening it up a little bit? Or
as much as we can, we're trying to set up the poll place still with approximately 6 foot spacing between voting booths. Not required, but where we can, we are doing that. We're doing that really in all locations. We want to give voters that comfort when they come in. So
let's revisit that in August and November. I mean, we have cut back poll books, right? I mean, electronic poll books at location because of that on occasion.
we did do that in 2020. We have ramped those back up.
Okay.
So we got those poll books. We learned that lesson in 2020. you need to have the same number of check-in things. So we have gotten those numbers up. So really the social distancing more so is the spacing of the voting booths apart from each other. So instead of them being right next to each other, those are kind of spread out. We are at the number of DS200 scanners, electronic poll books. We've gotten those back to our higher
I
levels.
think, good one. You want to say something?
Yeah, we went back to 8-foot tables, so there's 2 on each table now, so we're back to the
I don't know who that is.
Okay, why don't you just announce you so we can get it in the
I'm
record?
sorry, Vic Rush, election support manager. We went back to 8-foot tables, so there's 2 poll books on each table now.
Thank you. I just think of the, the backup lines we had in November 2020 was due to necessary social distancing. We're not putting ourselves in a position now, apparently, that would occur again.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Thank you. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I will move to approve to extend the delivery and return of voting equipment to voting locations contract with Mid-Fits Inc. doing businesses Berman Moving and Storage, extending the contract from November 3rd of 2022 through December 31st of 2022, and not to exceed the amount of $49,335. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? I know we had quite a bit of discussion in our previous meetings about this, Mr. Pilati.
Just a comment, a couple comments. One, again, this back in February 14th meeting, we executed the initial extension of this Berman's contract, which incorporated the May election and goes right up to the day before the November election. And then by mutual agreement between the parties, we could extend it further, and that's what we did. And we talked about at that point through the end of the year at all current pricing. Regarding if there potentially is another primary election, which at some point we have to vote on the legislative offices, that falls in the initial extension. And the way that the contract was drafted is that basically the vendor is bidding on, there's 2 tiers. What those tiers are is if a poll place has 1 to 5 precincts, that's one set of pricing. And if it's 6 to 12 precincts, that's another set of pricing. And it's a little bit higher for the bigger one because then they have to take 2 trips and what that takes for them to get it done. And when they bid on this, we tell them that here's are the approximate elections, and then there could be unknown elections that arise, and if those do, the pricing set forward in that tier system is what they would pay. So if we do, for example, have an August election, they would be covered under this contract, and then they would just bill us at tier 1 and tier 2, however many of those locations they have.
And there will be another primary election. At some point.
It has to be at some point.
Thank you, Mr. Pilati. Any other questions or comments, for Mr. Pilati?
The only question I had was whether August would be covered, so thanks for that clarification.
Thank you. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously, and I will recommend to adopt a federal grant award equipment policy for the purpose of tracking equipment through federal award funding. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Briefly, Mr. Platt, can you explain the reason for this and how much money do we receive federally other than what we received from that nonprofit a few years ago?
I want to say federally, was it about $1 million?
I think it was like 1.3 million.
So that was like CARES dollars that we received, and so we have to keep track of everything that we spend, and we had to turn documentation in, and Kendra and her team did that. And now the state auditor is auditing so we had to turn our reports into the Secretary of State's office. The state auditor's office is auditing the Secretary of State's office and all the things that the boards had turned in. Through that process, the state said that asked questions, and it's a similar question of several boards on policies that they may have regarding their equipment. And so Secretary of State's office contacted us and wanted to know, do we have a policy that, for example, if someone were to steal a piece of equipment, do you have a policy that says what's supposed to happen? We don't, but we know that we call protective services and say something's been stolen, and we file that kind of complaint. They said, well, you need to have some of those types of things actually in a policy. And so the Secretary of State's office has sent out kind of what is a boilerplate contract to multiple boards of elections asking for the boards to adopt this. And they wanted boards to adopt it in April, because now the Secretary of State then needs in turn to turn those into the state auditors. So what this is kind of like, again, a boilerplate agreement that the Secretary of State's office pushed out to several boards of elections. Mark has reviewed it. He has provided some comment on it, and we've incorporated his changes into it. And basically what this is covering, because a lot of that money that we got from the grant dollars could be for non-tangible items, renting hotels for training sessions and things like that. But as far as equipment is concerned, we did buy computers. We bought two, they were used, but DS850s, central scanners that this money was used for, folding, inserting machine. So those are some of the higher ticket things that qualify. And that's what that would cover.
And the CARES Act was the money, COVID money, correct? So historically, we don't receive federal money, correct? And I mean, generally, this was an exception. We have a policy. Should we receive federal money again, at least we have a policy for that. That is correct, yes. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. We have two walk-on items here. One is the early person alternate plan for the May 3rd, 2022 primary election. I will move to adopt, it's been given to the board members, this plan. It's been published in the paper about it. And I will move to adopt the early in-person alternate plan for the May 3rd, 2020 primary election that I anticipate will just be happening this week when we get our ballot. But there's a second.
Second.
Mr. Pilati, if you want to kind of give some.
Sure. So because of the ever-changing landscape of this election and the form of the ballot, by the time we got the directive that finalized the form of the ballot, which I believe was March 23rd, that's pretty much about a month after we got the first directive setting the initial form of the ballot. So that put us basically a month behind, and staff has worked to 7 days a week, extended hours to try to make up that ground, and they've done excellent work to get there. However, as always, we will not skip a step. We will not cut a corner. We will make sure that we execute every step that we do, and we've done that. Because of that, on the opening of early in-person voting yesterday, we did not have a printed ballot. So for our early in-person voting, we do send a file to our vendor Midwest Direct, who they will print those ballots, they deliver them, we stack the wall, and that's called pick and pull. When somebody comes in, they takes it. Midwest Direct, we've communicated with them at least twice a day, every day for weeks now. They have been excellent. They have been awaiting for us just to give them something to print. And when they do, their turnaround time has been very good. So coming into early in-person voting starting yesterday, we gave our approval to print to Midwest Direct on Monday. And so what that means is the ballot has been 100% proofed and accurate. But in Cuyahoga County, we also take a step in which we take a test deck, which is a set of ballots that are pre-voted. We know what the outcome is, and we run that through the equipment, and then you upload the results from that scanning into our tabulation system, and we compare what was tabulated versus what the expected results are. If they match, then that's good. That means the machine is working correctly. We take that step here in Cuyahoga County, because not every board does that, is just because you have a proof ballot, it's no good if a machine can't read it. So we want to make sure a machine can read it. And what we do is we test it on our central scanners, which is what vote by mail scanned on, our early in-person equipment that we use downstairs, because that's all countywide, as well as our backup machines that we send into the field. So we got that done. We gave the approval to print. Midwest has started to print these. So 8 a.m. yesterday, we had to vote people. We produced a PDF ballot for individuals. They come in, it looks like the ballot, they vote it, and then we collect it in an ID envelope, which is what a vote by mail envelope is. They drop it in a box and we collect those. When we have the ballots, we then will have bipartisan teams of employees in the ballot department go through the remake policy. We'll transfer the votes from these PDF ballots to what I'm going to call a live ballot, and then that'll ultimately get scanned through a DS850 central scanner, the same as a vote by mail ballot. very similar to what we do with UOCAVA. When we email out an electronic ballot, it comes back, my partisan teams have to remake it, and then we go through that process. So it is something, we shared this with the Secretary of State's office last week, had a conversation. They were okay with the plan. I actually spoke with Secretary LaRose himself on Saturday. He understood and he gets it, and appreciative of our efforts to ensure that people can vote here at the opening. And then Secretary of State just wanted to make sure that we inform voters when they come in to just please make sure that they complete the ballot correctly. And we provided them handouts with that information. We yesterday began to receive from Midwest Direct the issues only ballots. It's the smallest group because we only have 20 issues on the ballot. Today, this morning, we've already received about half of the Democratic ballots. And by the end of the day, we'll have the other half of the Democratic ballots. And then tomorrow morning, we should have the Republican ballots. So we will have everything. And I anticipate Friday, we will be able to go to our regular process of handing out a ballot.
Well, what about, why not tomorrow if you get the Republican ballots tomorrow?
So they come boxed up. You got to take them out and you got to shelve them all and get them organized. And what we're doing is however we start the day. So if we start the day in a PDF environment, we're going to end the day that way. So no matter what time of day you come in, you got treated the same. And then we're going to, when we can flip it to a full day, which would be Friday, then everyone will be treated the same that day. And they'll get
So,
Yeah.
So, but if I came in for an issues only ballot tomorrow, will I get an issues only ballot, or I'm going to still be on a
You're going
PDF?
to get a PDF. So this week.
Not until all the ballots, D's, I's, or D's, issues, and R's are online. Will,
Yes.
so, and you expect our ballots in tomorrow, you said?
Yes.
Nice. And then should we anticipate Friday, everybody will get a ballot?
Correct. So today, staff, while there are voting, there's teams of employees down there unpacking the ballots. It's like there were like 150 boxes or more when it's all said and done. So it's quite a few boxes of ballots that we will load up. But they'll continue to do that throughout the day. So this way we can get it done. And then tomorrow, staff will stay as long as it takes to get that wall done so we can on Friday, in fact, open up and use regular process.
And when will we remake the ballots? Has that been determined yet, or is it at some point?
Actually, so Brian Cleary's team will do that. It will not be on Friday. It'll probably be next week at
Next
some point in
week,
time. Yeah.
And so there's all sorts of documentation. PDF will be kept in that envelope. There'll be a notation that it was remade.
Exactly.
People that remade it will acknowledge they remade it.
Yeah. So the PDF will be kept. It'll be marked. The markings of the two employees who will make it. They have coding and all that. So our normal process will be intact, and we will have that ballot to refer back to throughout the entirety of this election cycle and the 22 months that we have to keep the documents.
So they're going to be secured like any other ballot would, the PDF.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the workaround. I mean, that's what it was,
Absolutely.
and it was obviously a lot of thought and went into it, and appreciate your efforts.
Just a question, is any other county implementing a similar plan?
That I don't know. I didn't get any notice from the OAEO or the Secretary of State's office. I don't know if they necessarily want to publicize it or not. We have been very upfront, very transparent.
No,
Telling everybody.
no, this
so-
is actually excellent thinking and creative and great problem solving, frankly. So kudos to staff again. Just curious if any other county was doing it. So this will be in place till Friday.
Yes. Well, yes, we should actually use it. Hopefully, when we close the doors at 5 o'clock Thursday, when we come in on Friday.
That's till Thursday evening then, Thursday evening.
If you'll just keep us posted as you have, we're online Friday, and then how many votes we eat, early in-person people we get every day, just keep us posted.
Yes. And also I have to report back to the Secretary of State's office too, and keep them abreast of where we are, if we have ballots coming in, and when we kind of like flip the switch and go to tradition.
Great. Any other questions, Mr. Pillai? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. If all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Another walk-in item on the personnel agenda. It's with regret that we have to move to acknowledge the resignation of Katie Semo, who found a position down in Summit County. She'll be with us here through the 14th of April. But best of luck to you, Katie. There's a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, I think we're through the agenda. Is there any new business you want to talk about?
I just want to give you just a couple quick updates. Take any questions you may have. General updates is, I haven't talked about this in a while, but the employee handbook, it's still out there. HR has worked on chapter 6 and it's about ready to share with staff. However, we haven't shared it with staff because we've been a little busy. So, but we'll do that as soon as we can. In the meantime, HR has gone down on working on chapter 7, then that they'll have that. And they anticipate when it's all said and done, the new handbook will probably be about 8 chapters. So we're getting close to having something then that we'll be able to share with the prosecutor officially for review and the board members and take action.
Once we get one in place, we'll be adopting. I mean, you'll ask the board to adopt it.
Correct. Yeah. Another item that is in the back of our minds is new voting equipment. We need that. It keeps getting pushed off because of the craziness of Cuyahoga County election cycles, but we do need to make a decision this year. And so, again, we internally, we do need to parse out some time and focus on that, get back with Joe and Lisa as a subcommittee and figure out what steps we need to do
Right.
and get this across the finish line. So,
Yeah, well, we have, I mean, honestly, I'll have to go dig up my notes from the sessions we attended. Will we have some sort of refresher? I mean, just a recap, because it has been, I don't know, it seems like months since we actually
Yeah.
heard the vendor presentations and
you are
everything.
correct. So, yes, so.
And anything that's changed too between now and then, obviously it's been.
Yeah, so we definitely, so Peter James has been, he's the keeper of the documents, putting stuff together. He will put together a refresher document. And we do want to, I do know that we want to schedule some meetings, just a refresher meeting with these vendors, because a lot of these vendors last December went through state certification and have enhancements to their systems. And those are enhancements that we definitely are interested in for us. So that might be something where we schedule a Zoom. And again, we'll talk and see if you'd like to participate in that after we get you back up to, all of us back up to speed on where we kind of left off. So, but just that is out there. Moving into this election, yesterday for early in-person voting, we did have 52 voters, and 7 individuals did, after they found out it was a PDF version, they decided that I'm going to come back next week. No one complained. Everybody was happy with what was going on, and they made that choice. So that was good. Vote by mail is not where we want it to be. And I think a lot of this is because of the unknowns of
Yes.
what's happening. So we have 6,500 applications processed. Comparison, about 4 years ago, we were at 40,000. So it is a small fraction of where we should be. And quite honestly, I don't think we'll make up some ground, but we won't get back to where we were. We will push out through social media and Mike West's with the media, encouraging people to do this. But we'll see what we can. As far as vote by mail, those are going to go out for the first time Friday. So
They're going on Friday.
on Friday. So Midwest, their first priority was the early in-person ballots, then followed. So today they will begin to process this file of 6,500, and that will go in the mail on Friday. And then we'll be at a point where they'll go out on a regular basis.
Okay.
Also, PEOs, we are hitting our marks. We're about 85% recruited, which is good at this point in time, and we are about 65% trained. So at
That's
this,
good news.
yeah, so that we're there. We are now though at a point where we start to more micro focus, because we start to fine tune some of these poll places with partisan affiliation and things like that. So as always, any assistance that we can get on bringing additional Republicans into the mix is greatly appreciated.
Right.
And like I said, it's going the way it is. I think the incentives that we did by if you trained within the first 2 weeks, getting an additional $30, and now the second 2 weeks, additional 15. We did see a result of that. So that we will continue to do that in the future. It's all within budget. And so that has helped us to get to this point now where we are here. And kind of so everybody now is in full swing because obviously we have the May 3rd election. What will be going on in the ballot department at this point is it will be doing the logic and accuracy testing of the equipment. And that is running these test decks through the election day things to make sure that you read. Today they finished up testing the auto marks. Now they will roll into election day scanners. They will continue to work extended hours. They will get into the weekend because we need to, again, we have to make up some days here to get back on track. Because our goal is Berman's, when they come in about a week, 10 days, we want to be on track at that point for them to be able to take the equipment to be able to deliver on time. Election support probably will be in this weekend also, doing some pre-packing of items, all in an effort again to get back on track. We will get there. I think we all feel pretty confident about that, but again, it's going to take some hours to get there.
Do we have any need for additional staff to do it, or are we doing everything with our current staff?
No, so we are using temporary staff. Unfortunately, even though we increased our temporary wages to $15 an hour, it is still a struggle to get temps. Lori is, she's bringing a few people in every day for assessments, but they're not lining up. The increase in gas doesn't help our cause for people trying to drive down here to do that. So, but we are doing what we can, and kind of what we've done is, so for example, the early in-person voting is not as robust right now with the vote by mail, so we've shifted those temporary employees onto the other duties, and then as we get caught up, we'll kind of release them off of that, and they'll go back to what their home assignment kind of is. So we will get there one way or another.
Sure.
So other than that, we did have a couple challenges, but we worked workarounds too. This whole paper issue, some of the things that we sent out to the poll places, like the precinct voter lists, backup paper poll books, we did not get a lot of response to our bidding, and it's because people they don't have the paper to do it. So what we have come up with is we have the vendors, some vendors have bid on some, great. Other things such as their backup paper poll books, it looks like we might be able to create the print file here, hopefully maybe use the print shop, they'll print them, they'll send us the things back here, and then we'll have staff manually assemble and staple those. Again, got to do what you got to do to get it done, but it's this paper thing is interesting.
Your paper shortage, were you telling us about this before? I think I vaguely remember that. I just didn't realize it was so significant.
Yeah, it's paper, and it seems more so envelopes.
Oh, envelopes.
We've been very looking at the August primary and November to try to address that issue.
Yes, so Midwest is already, and that's where we talked about in a board meeting, where Midwest is saying, hey, I gotta incur these extra costs.
Right.
Well, doesn't mean not necessarily the extra cost, it might be costs that they're gonna have to utilize, but what they will do is, because of some of the lead time, when they officially do announce an election, and again, we'll just assume August, they have ordered some stuff. They will borrow a little bit from November to cover August. They will put orders in now that have enough lead time to make sure that we can cover November.
They've been a really good, my sense is they've been a really great vendor. As much as we push back on contract issues and stuff, it's worth saying, they held the price the same and, those kinds of things. We often beat up on our vendors, but we do are really good. They seem to be doing a great job, and especially in this time, everybody's doing just a really great job in terms of this difficult period. So probably worth saying that.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Bellotti?
No, just if there's any questions.
Any public comment?
No, Chairman.
I do just want to say, all you in this room, I admire and appreciate your leadership in a very difficult time. And you guys are coming through, and I appreciate it. I know I speak on behalf of these board members.
Absolutely.
If it isn't for your leadership, the people that aren't in this room too, there are a lot of them, but I really appreciate it. bottom of my heart, so. I'll let that-
I did have a public comment.
Okay, sure, you may, come on up and, then we'll hear your public comment. Just let us know your name, sir, and your address.
My name is Mike Seals, and I'm a resident of Cleveland Ward 7.
Okay,
And I'm also Seals, Seals. And I'm also president of the Cleveland Ward 7 Democratic Club. And we are organizing a early vote coalition. And we are trying to gain an understanding with the congressional race. So Mr. Pilati, if you could direct me as to how I can obtain a map of the congressional district after the meeting, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
thank you, Mr. Sills. Any other public comment or question? Okay, hearing none, no new business. I will move to adjourn and we'll be back here April 29th. Again, thank you for all your efforts.
Absolutely.
Second, we need a second on the.
Second.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
This is one thing I was saying about, it's really the kind of the decision to certify really fast candidates.
Yeah, that's where I didn't want
Hey,
to
Mark,
get
keep us posted on, keep us posted on, you could just say, hey,
It makes sense, I read it like,
Yeah.
because they aren't on this ballot, that decision is
I'll,
void, because they're not on this
yeah.
ballot.